All right, all right. Alex, how are you doing today?
Good, man. It's good to be here. Good to see you again. How you doing?
I'm doing well. It's been a crazy, blazing hot Northwest 95 lately
Oh,
here, 95, 93, which is not common out in the Oregon area. I don't know if you know that, but it's usually a bad weather area.
yeah. No, I mean, here right now we're kind of getting a little bit of storm. That's weather I would expect. Although, I'm doing just fine. It is super hot, super muggy. It's been kind of raining on and off, but I have that like ocean wind to kind of counteract a little bit, so we're surviving.
That's living right there. That's living. When you got the
Not
ocean
bad.
wind, I was out in San Diego for the last, I don't know, 5, 6 days before I came back on Sunday for my brother. It was a combo of my brother's birthday, one brother's birthday, my other brother's bachelor party, and
Mm,
our yearly boys trip golf tournament. Is our 18th annual. Yeah, I'm an unk, but that whole group together into one 4 day excursion. So I was
nice.
saying exhaustion levels very high coming into Sunday, coming off a trip like that.
Yeah, I feel you. We've been all over the place. I feel like I haven't spent more than I think like a week at my house in over a month, something like that. So I'm looking forward to relaxing a little bit. Well, not relaxing, but just like working like normal. Now we were in Miami for Consensus and Accelerate, and then came home and pretty much immediately got invited to go straight back to Miami to do the Super Team USA go to market boot camp. Um, Evan led a keynote on crisis comms management, and I did a workshop on direct to consumer marketing, and then immediately came home, had a few days, went straight to New York
I
for
saw that.
the Ethereum conference. Came back, had less than 40, less than 24 hours at my house, and immediately then left on my. It was my 12th anniversary last weekend, and so we went to Asheville and spent the weekend in the mountains and went to a concert and just hiked and did all that fun stuff. So it's been good, but I am very tired.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? You go on vacation, and you're one of those who goes on a hike and is active. Wow, that's that's too much.
There was plenty of just like sitting on the porch and bird watching, and there was a hot tub at the Airbnb, so it was really nice. But yeah, there was the hikes were hard. They were not like they were not what I was. It was tough. Just like wearing sneakers was a little ill equipped. But I don't know if you've ever seen that meme that's like you're like on the trail and you're all decked out, and then like
Yeah,
a kid in flip flops just like runs past you on the trail, and you're like, ah, okay, I'm overdressed for the occasion, so we didn't want to be those people. But it was, yeah, it was fun. I mean, and Asheville is beautiful. There's so many trails.
it is nice to get out. It's nice to get out and about, especially markets haven't been overly exciting in a lot of ways. So during the summer when the markets maybe a little more difficult around opportunities. Take your
Sure.
moments, enjoy yourself a little bit. Don't get caught. I think some people
Yeah.
get caught too much watching the screen and watching charts that aren't doing anything. And I think they feel they're doing something by just sitting there, but really you're just spending time, but no getting
Yeah.
no value out of that time.
I know. Honestly though, like, because I've been through this market cycle a number of times, and the thing that's different about this now is that it's exhausting in a slightly different way. If it used to be exhausting because it's just so flat and so boring, or just like a light downtrend, like over time, just kind of that slow
Yeah.
bleed sort of thing. Now it's like aggressive whiplash, like up and down, but not for a reason that makes a lot of sense. Just like because this thing happened in the news that's jerking everybody the opposite direction. But like, oh, just kidding, we made that up. It wasn't real. War's back on.
Yeah.
Now we have a new deal. Oh, wait, actually, hold on. Sorry, we forgot about this other thing. And it's just like you're exhausted because of the increased chop and volatility that you know you might not have been expecting, because it's so aggressively, we're back, we're not, we're back, we're not, and it's
Yeah.
it's just like a different kind of tiring, you know.
Yeah, it's a lot more fatiguing because it's a lot more active because it's headline driven a lot more than it's ever been in a bear market. Usually, bear market doesn't really flinch much. You're like, you could
Yeah,
say
the news doesn't
whatever,
matter. Yeah.
but when big enough people say stuff And when the stock market's absolutely ripping nonstop, and the headlines are basically alt season for the last year in AI stocks and everything,
Yeah.
even at the low billion valuation, everything's 10, 15, 20 Xing it. It's fatiguing when you start seeing, whoa, for the first time in this market, it's hard to, there's a lot more people questioning, am I actually in the wrong market at this moment? Like, instead of front running something, did I actually miss the boat of something else that was going on here? And that's never felt, it's never felt so much like that as it has this last time.
Mm-hmm. It's a tough one because I could see how you could have the opinion that you missed a different boat that you didn't even know you were potentially supposed to catch. But at the same time, most of that stuff is private.
Yeah.
It's not like you even had a chance to get on the boat. Like, yeah, you missed the boat, but the boat started, 6 miles offshore and you didn't have access to the dinghy that took everybody over there before the engine started, kind of thing. I mean, like, most of these companies are, like, we're hearing about public offerings now, and like SpaceX just went, but that's after years of like private investors or early employees getting equity share, that kind of thing. That's been building up for ages beforehand. There's like not even really anything you could have done. I guess maybe you could have like traded tokenized futures about, some asset that's like not legally tied to the actual company. I mean, that was a thing. Do you remember when that popped off? It was like, oh man, who was it? It might have been Anthropic CEO. Somebody was like talking about, the inherent problems of like trading assets that are being presented to an investor as if they're tied to something like a company, but they're really not legally. So you're just sort of hoping that like somebody respects this thing you allegedly own. I don't know, dude.
Yeah.
Like, what was retail even supposed to do with any of that? Even if they had seen the writing on the wall about this AI boom kind of thing.
Well, don't even get me started on, that's basically the token conversation
Yeah.
for most tokens that exist.
Yep.
The same thing of tokenizing something that's not the actual version. Tokens themselves, in a lot of situations, the gas token or whatever that we've speculated on. Yeah, it's in a way, it feels that we're getting a nice, and we may even be in for more of it, but that we're getting a bit of a cleanse of the rose-colored glasses, which is just everything is what it is. Oh, it's, it is a multi-billion-dollar company, but now everyone's like, wait a second. If Hyperliquid's doing this much money in actual revenue, and if they're doing this and that and this, then how are we valuing this thing that does $1,000 in volume a month at $3 billion? Like, it doesn't, like, the glass is shattering a little bit. It feels like into,
You mean Cardano
or Polkadot or all those ancient tokens that have survived at mass levels forever. And it doesn't make any sense based on any metric of a company.
The nature of like what constitutes a viable metric has changed. We are not valuating companies based on the things that we did 50 years ago anymore. It's, in one hand, you can say, this is great that more people have access to more opportunities financially than they ever have before. And a lot of that is largely, or can be largely, attributed to tokenized offerings forcing things to, be able to be traded or held or invested in by people who normally would have been gate kept off the platform for not meeting minimum brokerage requirements or whatever. But on the other hand, what that does is it opens up the ability to speculate without the sense of like kind of reserved valuation methodologies that we have applied to companies in the past, when it was only stocks and only accredited investors buying things, or people participating through a mutual fund or something like that. Like, as that gets eroded, it's great that the barriers to entry are lowering for more people to get more involved with things that they should be allowed to if they would like to. But it's also true to say that they don't have the same fundamental understanding of how valuation should work in like a world confined by some semblance of rules. So now everything is basically just speculation. I mean, none of these AI companies that are valued at what they are, look, SpaceX is the perfect example. Nothing that it does should communicate in any way, shape, or form that it's worth over $2 trillion at open. That's insane. The only thing in that whole bundle of stuff that makes any money is Starlink, and it made $4 billion last year, which is completely wiped off by the fact that it's getting rolled into that whole mess just to offset how much money XAI is losing, you know? So, like at the end of the day, all of that stuff is bleeding cash. And yet it will probably sit at that ridiculous valuation for a hot minute because of people speculating. And then you have to ask yourself the philosophical question, like, are they wrong? If everyone believes together that the thing that the thing that appropriately values a company now has to include its future speculation much more than it ever has before outside of like the venture world, can you really say they're wrong? Because like the dollar is only worth anything because tons of people believe it is. But if collectively you could wave a magic wand and they all decided that they were wrong, it would disappear. It's just like, now we're getting in the philosophical weeds, but like, the nature of what is value is changing, and you can't really say that it's wrong if everyone agrees.
And that goes into even, we kind of went through this years back with tech valuations. It was slightly different, but it's an evolution of almost, leverage up that mentality with AI, which was for years, whether it was Tesla, Amazon, a lot of these companies didn't make any money really on paper, but their price to earnings ratios were just out of control. So all these value investors were basically like, this doesn't make any sense. This is it's a shit model. And so they had this big value investor, the Warren Buffetts of the world model, compared to this new age speculation. It was really counterintuitive to each other. So old school investors compared to this were basically fighting this battle. I can't enter these things because my rules don't apply to this level of price earnings ratios. But in return, you're forced to not enter these markets that were astronomical movers over, you could go short or long term. It doesn't matter. It was always up. And now we've got AI, and it seems to be doing the same thing. Things are costing a ton. They're being, I forget what, I don't know why I'm not thinking of the word. They're being basically supplemented. They're giving a bunch of money to them to make sure that they still can be at a cost people can pay, or subsidized. They're constantly being subsidized so you can use it. And then you're getting these mondo IPOs. I mean, we're going to have, I think after we just had a great SpaceX IPO that's up, I don't know, 50, 75% already, Anthropic and OpenAI probably are going to keep going up until their IPO actually happens. And we're going to have $3 trillion IPOs in the same year with
Why stop at 3? Send it to 10.
It's when other companies are dragging into it too. Samsung, multiple others, like every day, some company turns into $1 trillion company that I didn't even know was close to that size.
Well, it's another thing. I mean, like you mentioned, the revenue thing is like almost against your bottom line at this point. What do you want to make revenue for? To pay taxes on it? Hell no. Just like, why would you do that when you could, what's the word? Foment the froth in the market by, helping people speculate more wildly on your future valuation and apply that to your stock price, which you can then leverage as capital to contribute to funds and invest in other stuff and yada, what, that whole loophole, rigmarole, whatever. It's almost against your best interest as one of those companies to like make a ton of revenue. When you could make better money that you can keep without having to pay it into taxes in a different way. And the token model really applied that. Like you can see it in tiny little like micro economies where you look at like a single NFT project, for example. Like you could mint one right now. You could mint 100 of these tokens. You could give them to your 100 most loyal followers, and every single one of them could decide together as a group that they were going to all list them for sale with a minimum price of $10 million a piece. And all of a sudden, the market cap of your project, even though there's no volume to support that, is at, billion plus dollars. And you've never made an ounce of revenue and there's no volume, but everybody who's holding shares in that thing agrees, nope, this is what the minimum I'm going to sell it for. And all of a sudden your market cap is $1 billion, and why not? Who's to say you can't do it?
That was probably one of the most fun aspects of NFT. Was it truly was a band together. If you all decide you truly are going to hold the ground, then that is the minimum price. Like it is.
said that back in the NFT days too. And if anyone ever had anything to say about floor prices, like just decide that it's higher and all of a sudden it will be. You just have to get everyone to agree with you. And hey, if you're all invested in it, should be easy, right? You should all agree it should be worth more.
Yeah. When I look at it, it actually reminds me a lot of these conversations. It's so funny how you can kind of move it to the different things we've had discussions within the crypto industry in these micro economies. And that really came down to back in the day. Remember, it was memes. Well, the first time memes came around and then got knocked away again, it was, oh, they need utility. They need utility. So there's this whole utility push. But then people realized, well, if I give it utility and it starts doing stuff, then there's actual business metrics that start getting applied, and then it hammers our whole token to the ground. Because instead of living in a fantasy world of the value of this thing that has no business metrics, it's kind of this fantasy. We can all decide what it is. It became real. It became a thing that does something, and things that do something are in a pool with other things that do something, and they have valuation. So it's that similar conversation of the day people took a meme and made it something was the day a meme broke and dropped. And I think with some of these other things, the day they become something that you can start measuring things really easily, it gets compared to other things in the same bucket, and it goes down to wherever those are or up. But most of the time it's down.
Yep, nailed it.
It's so funny though. But I mean, to talk about SpaceX, we'll go into that a little bit here, because this was news to me this morning, was hearing of, on top of the SpaceX overall, obviously a great IPO. I think a lot of people were hesitant of that.
A lot of nuance.
Great from the standpoint of, I think a lot of people thought it was not going to be able to even hold price very long. And it did. It got the bid. I guess you could go into the same conversation we just had. Is this one of the few times we've seen kind of a low float scenario on a giant stock coming out? Did he kind of learn that from the crypto sphere? Do you think that might be the vibe he got?
Certainly possible. I mean, and I wouldn't do, your audience the disservice of listening to me pontificate about it when I don't really know enough about it to have like a super educated conversation. But yeah, I mean, there's a couple things that I do know about that situation that seem weird. First of all, yes, like who can participate and who can sell right now. As far as I'm aware, selling is pretty much limited to a tiny slice plus the people who are then buying into the public offering.
Yeah.
Not to mention that a lot of the purchases into that have been fund related, right? Like, because of the NASDAQ shifting its listing requirements or making some concessions to push that out sooner. A lot of people's retirement accounts are invested now into SpaceX specifically, even if the individual who owns the account technically didn't make that decision specifically. It was made for them because of the fund that they hold that now contains that. That was like one of the big things that I heard from several financial planners who were like, if you want to opt out of this, you pretty much need to be holding S&P versus NASDAQ funds in your retirement accounts, because the NASDAQ is included, the S&P is not yet. So it's, shoehorned into that side, but not this side. Then plus you have all of the people who were made on paper very wealthy from being early private investors or employees at the companies, which I do want to be clear, is really cool. That's great for them.
Yeah.
Like that is an awesome side effect of this whole thing, that you could have, earned stock options early in a company like SpaceX or like, any of the ones that are rolled up in there, and then been able to realize that through this offering. The other side of that coin, though, is that you're realizing that profit because retail is coming in to buy it from you, or to supplement the value of the thing that you're now holding with additional, additional values and stuff. So yeah, I follow a handful of people that are much more educated. My friend Kenneth Suna, who's on TikTok, and I think everything as Trade, Invest, Simplify, all one word. And then Jessica Inkskip, who was just on Mad Money with Jim Cramer the other day, who's a fantastic creator over on TikTok. She's a pro, like Eric Pan. Like, these are all people who I would follow and ask that same question, like, hey, help me understand this a little bit more, because what I just said is pretty much the sum total of like everything I know about the whole thing.
Yeah, I think looking at it, it's interesting. I mean, you have over 4,400 people became millionaires upon IPO going live, assuming the price stays where it is, just at go live valuation under $35 per share. Obviously, it tapped 225 over the last 24 hours. So there's probably a lot more than 4,400 now. But you also have, I didn't actually realize as many companies were rolled up into it. So you got
Oh,
SpaceX,
more. Yeah.
has XAI, Twitter is rolled up into it. And I think there might be one other of the core companies.
There's some separate inclusions for the different rockets themselves that are then I saw separate in some way between SpaceX and then a couple different specific rocket projects and then Starlink.
Oh, yes, and Starlink. So you have these multiple giant things all rolled into one monster company, and you have this rollout, and it's setting the tone for the giant IPOs that are all coming this year. And I think everybody was somewhat taking a peek at this as the tone setter. Like, does the market kind of crater from this thing going live? Does it go up? Does money funnel? Everybody's somewhat going to be keeping watch for the first few weeks to see where does this ball of money go, or how does this thing do at a giant valuation. We also may see different where this has almost not like such a little amount available to buy, the rest locked up. It'll be very interesting to see how OpenAI and Anthropic and all these, how do they play their IPO now, seeing this with a really low float coming out? Does that give them ideas of, maybe this is the way, or they don't go that way and we see a drastically different thing where everyone's like, let me buy this on launch because SpaceX was a no-brainer. All of retail comes flying in, and those ones don't run the same model. And then you see an opposite effect. You see a bunch of people get rinsed, a sell-off. So I think that's just going to put in people's head, at least, especially people from our industry. I think they're going to put in their head of, okay, so what is the release? Like, what does the release schedule look like? How much is available on day one? If it's like SpaceX, maybe I'll speculate a little harder. If there's a bunch more released, maybe I'm going to pull back and wait and see how that happens. But the big piece that was the new news was today was Cursor gets acquired for $60 billion to make a strong play at competing with the Anthropics and OpenAI. Instead of building it themselves, they've decided to acquire a company to rapidly get them in that game. How do you feel about that? How much was Cursor on your radar before this moment?
Sorry. Waiting to see how long it's going to take.
Oh, your dog?
Yeah, my wife's going to go grab him. I don't know why he just lost his mind.
That's okay. It's not that loud on over the
Okay.
the speaker.
Sounds way worse on my side. To answer your question. Oh my God, dude.
Oh yeah, he's quiet.
Give it one more second and then I might go make him be quiet because he's just going to keep going. Okay.
Dog
Oh.
move.
All right. In answer to your question, not really. Like, kind of, in the sense that I'm aware that it exists and know what it does and all that sort of stuff. But like, I guess that makes it kind of a good target for an acquisition. There was some speculation that I saw that, again, I don't know enough to like say one way or the other how I feel, but that SpaceX was partially one of the reasons or motivations behind him taking it public that way was to buy stuff. I believe the term for that is a SPAC, a special purpose acquisition company or something like that. Somebody correct me if I messed up that acronym, but effectively, needs to borrow money to do more things, doesn't have enough assets on paper to spend as much as he wants to, send this thing public, get a lot more paper rich and be able to do more stuff with that money, including buy more companies like Cursor. Because Cursor is a thing that, as we can look up and confirm, makes money, which makes it unique in this SpaceX dilemma. Or not dilemma, pile of stuff.
Yeah.
Basically nothing in there except for Starlink is making any kind of money. And so you got to offset some of those losses from things like Twitter and things like XAI and whatever that are hemorrhaging cash. So in that sense, makes perfect sense. Also, now we have plenty more money, or he does rather, to buy this kind of stuff. Interesting call out to the valuation conversation we just had. Cursor valued at 60 billion in the acquisition, making 4 billion a year, is like a crazy different earnings to valuation ratio compared to what the other things in this pile are. So that's interesting. I would expect to see more of those. I think the other thing that really that I am concerned about is the level of government involvement in what is supposed to be a free market with regard to the AI stuff. We've got like these AI CEOs spending so much time in Washington contributing to the rulemaking around how to govern the industry that they are making money from and working and operating in and building, um, with almost no oversight, which is really weird. You have like the guy who is in the administration as some sort of like special employee who's technically divested, but still like has an ownership share in his venture fund with David Sachs,
Yeah.
being the AI and crypto czar or whatever. That dude has a vested interest in these things becoming more valuable. So that doesn't feel like the proper kind of oversight. And then you just have this weird like back and forth triangle kind of thing wherein like the government was working with Anthropic and then they canned them. And then you've got the Secretary of Defense like grave dancing on that deal, dying while calling them woke and lambasting woke tech in general without really defining exactly what that means. And then also giving the deal to OpenAI, which kind of makes it seem like, are we playing favorites with Sam Altman and OpenAI? And then you have Amazon like now running to DC to tattle on Anthropic, saying that their engineers jailbroke Fable 5, leading to the government swiftly and aggressively banning it as a model. And then Anthropic's engineers are saying it was a really like limited scope jailbreak that you could also use to jailbreak GPT 5.5, but we're not banning that one. And also, like nothing on Earth is unhackable in every sense of the word. So like, is this fair? So they're flying people to DC to try to figure this out. Meanwhile, DC is distracted because they're jumping dirt bikes over an octagon on the White House lawn running a UFC fight. Like, it's just like, dude, what the ever loving hell is going on? And how can anyone look at this and not think the government is just playing fast and loose with like manipulating valuations of companies by not only doing what the government has done, awarding government contracts to different companies for different things, but like making such a spectacle out of it, and then like aggressively shit talking the company that they're not working with, which just theoretically hurts them. Like, are you threatened by them? Like, do you just not like that CEO? Did he not kiss the ring appropriately enough? Like, what's going on? And it completely changes the conversation from like who is achieving the best, most efficient model, who's crushing benchmark A, B, and C, whatever. It's more about like who is not at the cool kids table in the cafeteria, which means that they don't get contract A, which means we're going to make fun of them, which means we're going to hurt their valuation. But all they're all like Amazon tattling on Anthropic is weird because Amazon's invested in Anthropic and they sell them cloud services and chips and whatever. Like, dude, it's so messy.
So weird. It is a bit of a twilight zone these days between the giant trillions of dollars. Everything, it's like monopoly money now. It's just everything is humongous, and everything, inflation's been so high that now they're saying that, if you haven't been getting 8+% in the stock market, that's you literally staying exactly where the same money value wise. So you're now having to get 20-30% to get the old returns that you would have to be net positive in the value of your money compared to the value of the dollar. And it feels like that because the value of the dollar and the size of the companies just seems to be getting so huge so quick that you look at a $3 billion or $3 trillion almost company, which feels like it could show up this week. It could get up to that size. Elon Musk would break 2 trillion in total net worth. Like, he's going to be bigger than most companies in the world. And these companies look like, okay, so is our speculation that at buying this at 3 trillion, that they're going to be 30 trillion in 5 years? Like, is that numbers we're getting? Yeah. Where is it Where is the moment where it's, this is yeah, or my house price is going to be 2 million as the floor in 5 years. The stock market's
It's
30 trillion for valuation.
dude, it's so hard to say. A point that I've been making for the last couple months is that same question gets posed, which I think is a fair one. You know, like when does it end? When does it come? What's it going to be? What's it going to take to knock the house of cards down? It's kind of like the things propping it up are so arrogant that and also control the levers of money in such a way that if they run into a specific bind, they're perfectly capable of fabricating or legitimately creating something to bail them out. You know, like I'm reminded of the auto industry bailout or the financial industry bailout post 2008, whatever. And it's like, you know, that could happen again. So if what's going to happen, that these AI companies who are all, you know, in a circle inflating everyone's revenue and valuation and sales and whatever by taking from company A and investing in company B while selling stuff to companies C, D, and E while also investing in E and then increasing their own revenue by trading, you know, cyclically around this whole thing. Uh, who's to say that it ever has to end? The whole thing, I mean, I'll get philosophical for just the concept of money is made up, right? Like it doesn't mean that paper doesn't mean anything. If push comes to shove, you can't do anything with that paper unless the person trying to give it to get the thing also likes the paper. And all of this stuff is no different, you know, in the grand scheme of things. So who's to say it ever has to come tumbling down? Or like, what would it take for it to? Probably enough mass disenfranchisement of the state of things that you have like a giant split and then the bifurcation between like the world and the reality that all of us live in, and then the world and reality that people like Elon Musk or these ludicrously wealthy individuals or these companies exist in, just gets, you know, clearer than it's ever been before. And we just sort of like interact when we have to, but we do our own thing. I mean, you know, like some semblance of a different economy comes into play. It's almost like there are two economies existing at the same time, you know, because like you mentioned, the stock market's ripping. You said 8%, dude, 25% could be the new norm. You know, but inflation could start to ramp up to so high that 25% yield on your money year over year doesn't cover the gap enough for you to combat the amount of debasement that the currency itself is going through. So does that really solve anything? No, it shrinks the gap a little bit, but it's just so hard to say, you know, because at that point, then what are you supposed to do? Like, well, you have to make concessions with the people around you who are also trying to survive. The stock market may be in the best place it's ever been on paper, but lots of people also feel like they're in the worst place they've ever been because everything's more expensive. They're not getting paid anymore. Investments are hard and confusing, and nothing seems to make any sense. And they're just getting hosed and fleeced every time they turn around. So it's like I don't feel like I'm living in the world where the stock market is just crushing all-time high month after month. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like it's
that
who's to
also
say?
goes in all markets like that. It's unless you're in the right stuff, you're not feeling it. Like
Yeah,
you even hear it in the crypto market. It's some people are super pumped on the timeline over the last few months because they've been in hype or they've been in.
yeah.
You pick a few different alts and they're like, oh, it's been alt season for months now.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, for the 10 people in those specific trades, everyone else is just sitting massacred or it dead flat in an area waiting for the next moment.
Mhm.
And that's same in stock market. If you're not in this bundle or these specific kind of, you have to be very tapped into being these other specific lower end AI that boomed, and most people probably catch them just like crypto at the very top of their run. 15x is up. It's like, oh, now that's on my radar. Yeah, I want to get involved in that AI product or platform. It is you do have to be very tapped in these days to catch the big moves, or you have to have a lot of money to where a large amount of money is in even these bigger ETFs or products, and you're just riding a 20% wave and you're barely above, what you need to catch, just keep your
Mhm.
money afloat. It's just kind of a tough, it's the separation is definitely there because we
Yeah.
know that for the general person, especially if you look at most of society, they don't have big stock portfolios. They don't have a lot of
Dude,
money in the
I
market.
don't.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, people ask me that all the time. That's the most common question you get when you talk about all this kind of stuff, it's like, yeah, this all sounds terrible and bleak, or like I have no chance or whatever. So like, what am I supposed to do? And genuinely, it's like, dude, I don't know. Let me know when you figure it out, because I'm sitting here in the exact same position. Genuinely, I'm trying to start a business. I'm running a small business in the United States, which is of course tough. I love it. I wouldn't be doing anything else. But at the same time, it's a very real thing that, like, hey, I still have a family. I still have to buy food, which is getting more expensive. I still have to put gas in the car. My mortgage is certainly not going down, and they
Yeah.
don't take, good intentions and effort and hard work as collateral to compensate for a payment and all that sort of stuff. So it's just like, yeah, I don't know, man. I'm driven by the same thing, and I'm trying to kind of figure. That's sort of always been like the rise up idea, which is just like, hey, who knows? I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but I am dedicating every ounce that I have to figuring that out. And we're probably going to have a better chance of figuring out if we all work together to figure that thing out. Because I agree with you, man. It's bleak. It just looks more hopeless now. You're surrounded by people who look like, or at least are presenting like, they're making so much money, and you're just like, why am I struggling so hard when I'm paying attention? Like, I'm here, I'm early, I have money to invest, I'm willing to invest, I am investing. Why don't I get to feel any of the benefits of like being this early, or being on the bleeding edge of the bleeding edge of a burgeoning sector of the tech industry or something like that? And it's just like, it's tough. It's hard.
Yeah. That's sometimes you got to be, real about it. I mean, we're not here
Yep.
to blow smoke. Like, obviously, it's always about, networking is so important. I met the Rise Up guys through over time, engaging on TikTok, and then ended up you getting to meet more and more and get to know each other more and more over the last, I don't know, maybe 6, 8 months at this point,
Something like that. Yeah.
maybe a little longer. But yeah, it really does take a village. I think that's what this community does really well, and this industry does really well, is if you do find the right people, or you find these people that are locked in, and whatever they're locked in on, they're locked in some sector. If it's even slightly different than what you're locked in on, it's even better, because that network becomes a kind of a mind trust where you are all coming with your piece of this pie that you're digging into all the time, with a light wave across the other stuff. That other person's got their head right on the other sector with a light wave on the other stuff. So the
Mhm.
minds themselves, whether it's connections, whether it's conversations, whether it's businesses, whether it's investments, whatever it is, that total grouping of your network is how you multiply what you can get done, multiply the opportunities you can come across. Check yourself in a moment that you're struggling, or you're too bullish or too euphoric on something that might not make sense. And you got Alex on the line, says, hey, what about this, this, and this? What about these gaps I'm seeing? And then you go, oh, shoot. Like, I was so
Mhm.
bullish. I had the blinders on. I just said, I just let him go. I was, oh, it's no brainer. And then it takes you back a second. Okay. Well, I need to figure that out. Maybe it's okay in the end, but maybe you find out, okay, I was a little too bullish on that. There are some definite holes here. And the person who knocked my rose colored glasses off allowed me to safely get myself out, or decrease my risk a bit, because it happens. I mean, it's happened to all of us. I mean, I don't know with Alex, but it's happened to me definitely. You get over your skis on something, you get too excited,
Mhm.
overexpose yourself, you let things go that logically you wouldn't let go, and you put yourself in the situation. In hindsight, it was obvious.
Yeah. That's been a big turning point for me, and for a lot of the people who are in our group, has been not necessarily doing anything other than having more realistic expectations, and then the ability to be a little bit more agile, like when this crazy stuff happens. You see it in crypto all the time, right? These things are presented, and we keep saying like, yeah, I'm investing in crypto ABC, whatever. I'm bullish on whatever. I have conviction in that or this or whatever. But we all kind of are coming more and more to realize, like, you can't safely invest in most of this stuff, if it barely any of it.
Yeah.
If by invest you mean tuck a little bit away, make a sensible contribution to this thing, accumulate it for years, and then in 20 years when you're ready to retire, this will have grown to a nice respectable amount that you can then live on for the rest of your life. You can't do that with altcoins. because a butterfly could fart and the whole thing just comes collapsing down. And like, what are you doing? You've been DCAing into this thing, buying all the dips like everyone tells you you're supposed to. That's terrible advice. Sometimes these things dip because the protocol just got hacked and you don't know because you're not paying attention to the right thing. And it's so small and nascent that, barely only 5 people are talking about the inner workings of this thing. I still see people on TikTok who are bullish on Gala. And it's like, dude, that thing fell apart ages ago because they all started suing each other and effectively it's out of business, but people still buy it. And it's like, but then you're talking about the separation of like where the real information is coming from these things that would inform your investment thesis, into this token or whatever. I mean, that's why you have to be in a group, or you basically just have to dedicate all of your time to this. It has to become your entire personality just to keep. It's why I only hold like 3 or 4 different tokens, because I don't have 18 hours a week to sit here and just keep track of the drama and the news and the ups and downs and the whatevers. I can't safely do that. I'm not that hands-on. Whole separate rabbit hole you could go down if you wanted to is this idea that one of the reasons I think people are getting hurt so much more with investments is because, in addition to these things not really qualifying as investable, we're too involved. It was never, ask your parents when they were in, the people that you would look at and say, God, you had it so easy. They weren't sitting there like paranoid watching every chart forever and trying to ask whether or not they should liquidate their entire 401k to buy it back lower. Like, that wasn't a thing. But we're so involved now that like you're gonna make mistakes just because you insist on staring at it all the time and overthinking all of this stuff repeatedly over and over again because you've been burned this many times on this stuff and you're conflating 2 things that, don't make sense. It's not fair to conflate Bitcoin with, Harry Potter, Obama, Sonic, Inu over here. And yet we kind of do. And it just ends up being problematic for so many different reasons. That then becomes harder to manage. And the harder you try to manage it, the harder it becomes to manage. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, there are a lot of lessons you learn. They say you pay the toll. You pay the toll in crypto.
I just reject that. I hear that too. And I just think like that is such a weak, like that is a thing that basically says, hey, I suffered. I'm going to make sure that you suffer too, because it will build your character. When it would be so much better if I just took this is why I do what I do, because I think that that's weak. So I'm like, no, if I can sit here and like maybe embarrass myself a little bit to tell you about some stuff that I screwed up in the hope that you then don't, guess what? We can break the cycle of required suffering and loss at some point and try to, as the name of my company implies, rise up together. Instead of me sitting here watching in the back like someone who's like done this before me, like, oh yeah, he's about to get liquidated. I can't wait.
Well, I think the problem is that it's not actually that, like, there are plenty of people that want to see somebody win or give that the advice. I think the pay the toll thing isn't actually with ill intent. It's more that no matter how much a lot of people hear coming into the industry, they don't accept it until they pay the toll. Like, you could walk them through everything you need to do, every way you need to take profit.
That I agree with you.
What people don't understand is the root of where it all comes from, the flaws you have in behavior. I'm 5-10x up and I'm going to 100x and I go 0 negative. It's like people to pay the toll. And from what you're saying, I 100% agree. But I think, unfortunately, too many people have to pay the toll before they change anything.
Sure.
The pain gets them there. And I would love to get to a place where people don't. But I think far too many people don't understand the mental side, that they haven't found that flaw yet. They haven't seen a 10-50x in 3 days and then seen it vanish. Like, they think, oh, it went 10-50x in 3 days. Well, it's obviously going to go 1 billion x from here. I'm riding till the end.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, diamond hands, we're all going to make it, everything. And then the big people are all out of it already. And then more and more of the retail's getting their buddies in. Yeah, we're all going to go. And that big account's still there saying nice things, even though they got nothing left. And boom, the toll is paid. It all goes back.
Yeah.
And then somebody's like, ooh,
I mean, all you can do is try, though.
yeah,
You know, like I recognize that for sure, and I see it all the time. You know, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink is a saying for a reason. You
yeah,
know, it's one of those things. And in that sense, yeah, I'm very aligned with you on that one. But I do think that it's unhealthy for us to just accept that without
yeah,
constantly trying to do whatever we can. And not to say that you have to break your back to do it. You know, I'm a big believer in, you know, no one person has to do everything, but everybody can do something.
yeah,
And so it's kind of one of those things like, hey, if you learn a lesson, tell an embarrassing story to somebody that you know about this thing that you got screwed over on. And yeah, maybe your pride is going to be hurt. Like, dude, just the other day, and this is for the record still ongoing. Um, me, the person who is constantly like making content about protecting yourself online and not falling to scams and stupid stuff, I was rushing through the check-in or the boarding line at the airport, and I decided for some reason to like try and handle an email that I had just received about the company Twitter. And my dumbass wasn't paying close enough attention. I was rushing. Everybody was traveling. You know, every excuse in the book, and I got phished, and the Twitter got compromised. Now, fortunately, you know, it could have been much worse. It's a small account. We don't have a ton of engagement, you know, but they got it. And in retrospect, like when I went back to look, I was like, oh my God, I don't know how I didn't clock that email. Like everything about it was sus. But you know, it can happen to anyone. So I'll tell the story about me getting phished, as embarrassing as it is for someone in my position to have made a blunder like that, just because it's proof like can happen to anybody. And maybe I'll save somebody. Maybe I'll make you look twice at that email, and maybe you won't get phished because I will put my damaged ego and pride on display for you. And if more people did that with more stuff, then I think at least it would move the needle in the right direction to prevent quite so many people from getting hosed.
absolutely, absolutely. And that's, you know, one of the reasons the brand is Exit Liquidity. It's because so much of this industry has been Exit Liquidity. So many people come in and are Exit Liquidity.
Yep.
It's, you know, this brand is all about education, networks, meeting the right people, getting to know the right people. It's why we have you on the show. It's why we've had other members on the show, getting people trusted sources to upskill themselves or to be able to connect with people that will help them get through this process and know who's good for what. Like there are certain people that, like Alex said, this is where I'm good. Hey, I'm actually not hitting this area as hard, but these are some people that will get you that information if you're diehard on that, because everybody has things they're passionate about. Some people don't want to hear about the Bank of Japan raising the rate 1%, how the carry trade works. Some people don't. Will does want to hear about it. Will wants to talk about it. You know,
that's why I have a Will.
Yeah, he's going to want to talk about the economics of it. He's the resource for that. He's the in-depth, he's the why guy behind it. If you're passionate about that, you want to understand how that works. You get into a call with him, you talk to him, you go to a stream with him. He's going to be happy to open the door and know what you're talking about. And he's going to know what he's talking about. I think that's really good. And with Alex, Evan, or any resource or the people he listed, you will very quickly find out what their passion is, what their bread and butter is as you go to streams, as you engage their content, and as you join these different communities. It becomes very obvious what each person loves talking about.
No, for sure. Yeah, I mean that's why we have the group that we have. When Evan and I were making the decision to bring Will in, it was because he covered a gap that Evan and I did not know enough about to talk about, but people really wanted to know about. And I was like, you got to have a resource for this kind of stuff. So you got to find a person who is doing their best to teach this stuff in a helpful way that's approachable and accommodating, and you know, not exclusive and cringy and broy and weird and gross. And Will was that. So now he's here, and it's great. I've become a smarter person because of knowing him, and I learned stuff from him all the time. You have to be careful that I don't like, I have to be careful that I don't crutch on him too much, where it's like, I don't have to read about that thing. Will's got it, you know, but like Will can't read everything. So I, you know, still have to do my job. But at the end of the day, it's really nice to have that kind of supplement.
Oh, absolutely. And because I don't want to pass this over, we talked about it really briefly. I'm going to give a quick explainer of what Cursor is, because I didn't know this. Sure. And I want to make sure. I know we talked about it getting acquired by SpaceX, and I think this is going to be a big topic in the AI battle as Cursor integrates which is actually the company that was bought was called AnySphere, and Cursor is inside of AnySphere. So let me give you a couple numbers. Alex hit on them quickly so that we can wrap this up and you have all the information, or you can go back to this if you want. So quick explainer on Cursor. Cursor is an AI-powered code editor. So it's basically a quick, everyday English, plain English instructions given into this thing. And then it is kind of an ultimate vibe coding platform. So when you look at that, you have, it's technically, it was one of the fastest growing software companies in history. So from 2022, it crossed, it says founded in 2022, it crossed 100 million annualized revenue in early 2025, but blew past 1 billion by late 2025. So in 3 years and to now, it went from 100 million to 2 billion as of April 2026. So the valuation,
that's Cursor.
Yeah, Cursor.
And as of this month, it's projected to cross 4 billion by the end of 2026.
Yeah, so astronomical growth rate of this company. So really what, and looking at, we were pulling together information on this. So originally it was built really heavily on top of OpenAI and Anthropic's Claude, but as of recently, it's been shifting over to its own platform of Composer, own LLMs of Composer, and also Colossus, which is xAI's platform. So this is supposed to be a big play at getting xAI and Grok rapidly up into the competition where they're seen very underneath OpenAI and Anthropic. The hope is that Cursor, acquiring Cursor at this giant valuation at 60 billion, which is the biggest ever for one of these styles. It says, what did it say? It said this was the biggest ever acquisition for a AI developer tool. So pretty insane to see, but I just wanted to give it a little bit more detail. So it is really about simplified coding at a really high level, automating a lot of these pieces so that a lot more people can get involved. So this is going to be the big play. We'll see how much of an impact it makes in the race. And this, again, could be one of those things that really piles into a crazy valuation continuing on SpaceX if this is really heavy targeted and they can get in the conversation at all with Claude and ChatGPT, which right now, that's all yet to be seen situation.
Well, and hey, listen, if Starlink making $4 billion a year in revenue lumped into a pile of losing companies turned SpaceX into a $2 trillion company, adding Cursor and another 4 billion, I guess that means that they're worth 8 trillion. So higher.
Yeah, higher for longer, 10 trillion by the end of the year. Elon, second biggest company in the world as an individual. That's most likely to happen. Yeah. So I think that's at least an interesting fold. Cursor to me didn't hit my radar until a few weeks ago. I feel like X knew they knew it was coming. So they started, hey, feed this company really heavily into the algorithm so everybody knows what it is. And then, oh, look, we bought them because they were not on my radar, never heard of them, anything. And then within this last month, they were everywhere.
I mean, a hill that I would die on, and I have plenty of problems and reservations with Elon Musk. It's the subject of lots of arguments that I get in because for some reason I'm not allowed to not like the dude. I have to be obsessed with him, which, the contrarian in me rejects that anyway. But one thing that I would give him for sure, excellent marketer. If he's never done anything else, he tells a great story and he's very convincing.
Well, you saw him hit too, like right as it was a couple of days out, Elon drops the bomb of, I see us at 1 trillion revenue by 2030. And
which means nothing.
Right back in.
You know what, Brandon? I see myself at $1 trillion in revenue by 2030. I can see it. Yeah. That's one of those things, side note, about like the prospectus, the prospectus that SpaceX dropped that put the worldwide AI TAM at $28 trillion. Uber, what's Uber's market cap right now? I have no idea.
I don't even know.
But Uber, in their prospectus, however many years ago that was, put the their TAM at 5 something trillion, which was accounting at the time for every ride on every piece of public or like private transportation worldwide at the same time happening on Uber. That would have been the equivalent. So like you can say whatever the hell you want. Dude, the total addressable market for my show and for your show is 8 billion people. Why not? Yeah. And guess what? If all of them contribute $5 a year, oh my God, I'll have a $40 billion year next year. So it's that stuff always makes me laugh because it's like, yeah, sure, technically, theoretically, sure. Why the hell not? Again, why not? Why not just make it up? Who cares?
If you got a good enough bull poster, you know, there's some of the best bull posters around with the biggest accounts, biggest leaders in the world. They know how to bull post. They know what they need to do to get things hyped. Yeah, and you throw 1 trillion revenue out when you're currently at maybe sub 10 with the Cursor acquisition sub 10 billion.
Yep.
Sounds like a pretty good number. Sounds 1 trillion. That means valuation at 3 trillion. Super undervalued. A huge buying opportunity.
Yeah.
That's a good thing, but we'll wrap up the SpaceX conversation there. It was it's worth talking about. It's worth knowing. It's clearly big news. It's going to be big news for a while now, especially with the different pieces wrapped in. Hey, shout out to everybody who had any employment at any of those companies getting a nice payday. I'm pumped for you. I'm never going to be anything but happy for people getting in a good situation like that from an employment standpoint. But here's an interesting thing, and then I want to go into a little bit more on marketing right after this. But just to make a quick mention of this, because we've talked about it a few times on the show, AI agents, and it kind of, I guess, piggybacks off the last conversation. But looking recently, the Locust founder, an AI agent from Y Combinator, that builds and runs the entire business. So you text it, and then it can basically, it says you can text the business idea, iMessage, SMS, Telegram. It does the market research across 40 plus paid data APIs, builds a brand, deploys a website, sources the product, markets it, and handles the payment. So the agent earns, holds, and spends autonomously all in USDC through a non-custodial wallet. So the numbers they're looking at Coinbase and Key Rock report found AI agents settled over $73 million across 176 million on-chain transactions in the past year. 98.6% of it in USDC. So waiting on to Circle itself. Mm-hmm. How do we feel like is this a bit of a proof of concept of AI agents potentially, like what it could become in the future and how much they could do without a ton of hand-holding with 402s and things?
So yeah, I guess my initial opinions are, I don't think so. I think maybe in a different direction. You know, so if we compare this to something that we've seen play out, and we were to look at the meme coin casino or the NFT casino on Ethereum, you know, meme coin casino on Solana, whatever, you know, who made out like a bandit in that sense, in the biggest way, besides, you know, a few people who maybe got lucky with the lottery ticket that was an NFT project or a meme coin or whatever. It's the ecosystem, right? So like, you know, I thought, hey, I'm not much of a meme coin guy, but I recognize that a lot of people are. So I'm just going to buy Sol. And then, you know, it culminated in a $292 all-time high after buying it in the $20 range post FTX. Yeah. And I never had to buy a single meme coin to get that 20x. So, or that the 10x, excuse me. So I look at this as being the same thing. You know, the first thing I think when I hear what you just said, which is that I can text a business idea to this thing and then it does all of this. You and I both know that whatever website it spits out and whatever it tells me is going to be pure slop, just drivel, just bullshit. You know, like what is it querying in terms of doing its market research across all these different APIs? It's querying a bunch of other people launching these like barely thought out, eighth baked slop ideas that it's going to barf out onto the timeline that I'm going to have to pretend to care about. And mostly what I'm doing is just like wading through all of it to try and find something legitimate. So honestly, at that point, it kind of awakens my inner Raul Paul. I've heard him make this comparison before, where like as he's investing in, the shovels that are digging that grave, I would say, he's also investing in the opposite side, which is exactly why we're building Rise Up the way that we are. Because my speculation, the thesis that I have as I build my company, is that slop is going to get so exhausting that at a point when anybody can launch a business that starts selling garbage to other AIs or whatever their business model is, at some point, the exhaustion is going to get so aggressive that the only thing that's going to bring you any semblance of your humanity back after wading through all that bullshit is to connect with a real human being in some capacity, which is why I feel good about like what we're doing right now. The two human beings having a conversation about a thing wherein we can be, open and honest about it and, relatable and talk to people and get to know people in your audience and celebrate with them, cry with them, all that sort of stuff, that human connection. Like we're just getting more and more and more starved for that. It started with COVID and it's only getting worse. So like, as Raul Paul was saying on this, this interview I'm referencing, he's investing in the shovel side that is fueling all of these, like that direction, but he's also investing in like mom and pop backpacking retreats in the woods who are taking, you out away from the grid and away from all of your screens and doing just like let's go sit and cook and eat and camp and play and do whatever and be human beings again. And so my speculation is that's the way that we're going to go. You got to, look at Twitter, dude. Every time, and you can spot them immediately, and it's all over TikTok. It's all over everything. Just like half of these comments are just like AI slop being posted on you by a bot. Dead internet theory has never looked more real than it is right now. And all I can think, dude, is like, I am so bearish long-term on this idea of like texting an AI agent and having them build a business for me and run it as passive income for me. That's just adding more slop to this pile of nonsense. So I don't know. I like kind of, I'm very opposed to it, honestly. It just seems like none of that is serving anybody in any kind of real way that matters.
Yeah, I struggle to believe in anything that's like an end-to-end thing. I said, texted a business idea, it builds every piece of it and then starts it. There's no, if you've used AI in any reasonable amount, it can't even trade Bitcoin. I mean, if even it's simple like, hey, make some trades on Bitcoin over the next week and get me profitable. It can't even get close. I mean, you'll lose.
What's it trading against? Itself and a bunch of other people who can pay it more to do a better job for them?
It's whoever's machine's faster. It's like basically comes down to hardware. Oh, here's the best strategy. Oh, but you don't have a $40,000 machine. Oh, then never mind. That's a bad strategy. Oh, you don't have a $3 million setup. Oh, well then you can't do that kind of like what do you think you're doing? They're all prompting the same things. We're all prompting the same. You have to have an edge of knowledge that you can then compare with the AI, and it can couple with you to find something unique or press you where your knowledge is going against its databases and get you and it to a better place. But if you don't have any base knowledge and you just go like, oh, here's the business, here's the thing, I'm trying to make this much money, it's just going to be, like you said, a bunch of slop out there. I don't really believe in that. The one big piece I think that would be where I'm interested is, okay, well then if tons of volume's going through USDC and they're targeting Coinbase and USDC, then you're going to Circle for your investment or your big risk metric. And the thing that people will try and hack heaviest will probably be Circle also. So you want to make sure that infrastructure is set. Maybe you do some digging behind the scenes, because there is going to be a theory I have is the Zcash hack was the beginning of what people can do. I think that was a little like, oh, okay. I think we can hack more. Like, I think it's a downtime right now.
Certainly.
Hack. We had the biggest hack month ever in April, which was almost $1 billion single month. I don't think that number is going down. And I think as the numbers go up, you hope you don't see a hyper liquid hack. You hope you don't see some of these big protocols get hacked. But in crypto, you do run into a little bit more of, there is less regulation. There is less safety nets than when your stuff gets hacked in other areas of traditional finance.
I want to be clear about something that you just said, though. Zcash was not hacked. Like just to be,
Or the 0
so
day exploit or whatever. That's what it was?
it wasn't even an exploit though. Zcash as a team retained a white hat service that found a critical flaw or found something and then patched it. So it was like they could have not said anything. You know, like no funds were missing, nothing got stolen, nobody got hacked. They hired a security team to find a vulnerability, and the security team found a vulnerability and then patched it. That was the story on that one. But
Yeah.
like in line with everything else, obviously we're still seeing, you know, the impact and ramifications fully of the Drift protocol exploit, which again was not a hack, but a social engineering exploit.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you had the Kelp DAO bridge exploit, which, of course, the biggest and most aggressive fund loss exploits that we've seen in our industry have been bridge centered.
Yeah.
Just it's a critical piece of infrastructure that unfortunately breaks easily. But I think you're 100% right to say that, especially as the capabilities of all of, you know, the attackers are amplified by increased use or access to more and more efficient and fast and lethal AI models to run these simulations and do all this kind of stuff, then yeah, your attack vector widens. The more money these companies make, the more money these DeFi protocols get and accumulate and hold and custody or whatever, you know, the more incentivized people are to try and steal from them, which just paints a bigger and bigger target on your back. You know, that sort of stuff. Yeah, I'm very worried about it. There are not a lot of projects that have remained safe or, you know, marked safe from whatever exploit. You know, like one of the reasons I felt so strong about working with Jito was because of their insulation from these things. You know, I had a conversation with one of their engineers, Andrew, a while back, where he said the thing that he looks at more than anything when he's vetting a new DeFi protocol to put money with or to use, stake, borrow, lend, yield farm, whatever, is their track record with regards to succumbing to a hack or an exploit or a vulnerability, you know, whatever it is, you know, and they're one of them. So in that sense, yeah, you know, your list of candidates is shrinking, and I expect it to get worse. And honestly, it's kind of one of those things where like it's tough to build because you're constantly worried about like, how am I going to not get outpaced by people who are throwing caution to the wind more? And like, what if I don't get hacked? Then maybe it is worth it for me to cut this corner, that corner, not get that extra audit, or to get a second opinion on XYZ, whatever, and just shoot for it, you know, because hey, that guy skipped it. I saw that all the time in the NFT world, you know, people who were willing to say illegal and sketchy things in their marketing to convince more people to buy, have an easier time selling tokens, versus someone who is trying to like be more compliant with all that, like what you're allowed to say and not say, you know, but then you just get passed and no one's looking, you know, so like the odds that they're going to get arrested are so slim. You know, that's kind of a chance you take. And I expect to see it get worse too. You know, just like you
And
said, I'm
sometimes,
worried about the rest of the year.
depending on the market, you also run into the price of audits and things. Hopefully agents and other things can help compete that down a little bit. But some of these audits are multi-million-dollar audits, and just
Mhm.
and I get like certain protocols. Like I don't know if I've got the funds
No,
to
but at
run
the same
this
time,
audit.
it's like a risk versus weight. You know, Evan and I have had this conversation, you know, where we struggle and we go back and forth about, you know, the money that we charge for people to join our premium subscription group or who to pay for one-on-one coaching or that kind of thing, you know,
Yeah.
and, you know, but then you talk to someone, I met a woman through my DMs who reached out for help after getting scammed. And, you know, she'd fallen victim to a pig butchering scheme that she was a victim of for several years straight. And it culminated in her losing over $1 million over the course of 3 or 4 years. And, you know, then I think to myself, like, do you think if she had the opportunity now to pay 5 grand to not lose 1 million, she would have done it in a heartbeat? You know, 100 to not lose 1 million. These companies are the same thing. Like, hey, if you just got exploited to the tune of $350 million, how does that $3 million massive security upgrade and audit, you know, system sound now? You know, in hindsight, don't you think perhaps, you know, that would have been better? And now, granted, the drift one is a little bit unique because, and just like Aave, you know, technically Aave's contracts worked fine. They would have passed an
Yeah.
audit. They did, you know,
Yeah.
but that's not the way that it got broken. And so it just kind of like widens the way that we have to look at like, how are we being attacked? You know, at the end of the day, it's not necessarily just because your code is flawed. It could be because Jimbo over here, who has too many keys to the admin wallet, he's flawed. So,
Yeah.
you know, and that's not code related. That's just poor planning, you know, but hey, here we are.
And some of those hacks were 8, 9 months of social engineering, meeting
Yeah.
people in person and things where,
Yeah.
you basically became so comfortable that
I could be
you know what?
working you right now, Brandon.
Yeah, that's been honestly, he's getting close to that time frame. Yeah, he is getting close to that time frame. Now I'm starting to feel some kind of way, but that's really it. But I know you're coming up on the last 10 or so minutes here. I do want to get to a topic that I think is really important and that you guys have talked about a lot. I think we all look at a lot as a critical area of the industry. That's going to be how the next group of people get onboarded. It's going to be how the brands and products and platforms and everything get portrayed to the next group of people, or even the current group of people that are looking for a place, like you said, that are realistic to put money, realistic to support, or realistic to use as a platform. And that's marketing. And that's how the message is being built, how the story is being told, all those kinds of pieces. When you look at this, I know it's a big question. You don't have a ton of time, but when you look at the next pool of people and the evolution we need to make as an industry, what are things that come to your head immediately from a marketing perspective?
Yeah, it's a big question. First of all, I think that we need to move past the brochure reading stage. For so long, the way that anyone was onboarded into something was just being told, like, read the white paper, do your research, without really any guidance into like what research means. And there's nothing to research except for the white paper, and that's
Yeah.
written by a guy who wants you to invest in the thing, or use it. So of course it's going to sound good, or maybe it's a press release that they paid for, which I was also going to paint them in a light that looks promising and looks good. So it was really hard. At this point, I think the best way is to be very honest about what's happening, what you're worried about as a builder. I have encouraged people who are trying to accumulate or attract users to trust them, to just be more honest and to accept slower growth. I think one of the things that leads crypto companies specifically to run into these problems is that we've just been trying to outdo the last cycle with regards to like rapidly onboarding as many people as possible in a short amount of time by convincing them with this shiny thing. And there's never been a focus on retaining any of those users long term by connecting with them or getting someone to trust you because you've become a piece of their lives and you've given them something in return for whatever you expect from them. And the companies that are willing to then build kind of the way that we've seen companies build in the Web 2 era, wherein you're more likely to spend more time with these people before asking anything of them. The jab, 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 then the right hook kind of mentality, instead of just like, hey, shiny thing, maybe airdrop, bye, bye, bye. And then people are like, oh my God, I got to get in there. And then they get in there and then the airdrop comes and it's underwhelming because of course it is. And then everybody leaves. And it's like, okay, well, you got an exit, but at what cost? And I find that like the quality of the relationship that you as a business can have with a consumer is so much better and more valuable to you as a company, even if you're only interested in yourself. If you can build a meaningful relationship with an audience, it's better to be loved by 1,000 than tolerated by 1,000,000 kind of thing. You hear that in video games all the time. Don't try to build a game that everyone on earth is going to want to play. Build a game that like this group of people is going to play all the time forever because they love it so much. And in crypto, we're just like, I think, consumed by the shortening attention span, the hype cycle, the fear that if I don't capitalize right now, the bear market's going to come and I'm going to lose all of my potential traction, blah, 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 whatever. It just leads to more superficial conversations. It leads to inflated metrics based on hype. It leads to all sorts of corners cut in the relationship building. And at the end of the day, we as consumers are so inundated with advertisements that you're just like looking for a way to get away from it. So you can't advertise crypto stuff in like that sense and expect it to go anywhere. It's much better to like, that's actually another reason. This is again a whole like the cornerstone of like our business model to help these companies advertise more effectively through live broadcast marketing instead of just like short form videos and tweets, is just because, do you know off the top of your head how long you have as a video creator posting a short form video on a platform like TikTok to grab someone's attention and convince them to stay for the video? Do you know like what the amount of time is that it takes to either keep or lose somebody?
Isn't it like 2 seconds?
It's way less. It's
That's
0.3
great.
seconds.
2 seemed like a lot because 2 or it seemed like a little amount.
0.3. Think about the decision. Think about you. The next time you're scrolling, you know, like at what point consistently are you making a decision? This is for me. Nope. Nope. Nope.
First
nope.
picture.
Yeah. And so, you know, if you're posting what looks to be immediately a commercial, you lost almost everybody instantly, especially as a creator. The only people sticking around for that are people who already know me that didn't need to see the commercial. Yeah. Or people who are discovering me for the first time as a guy posting a commercial, and my reputation is tarnished now. So it doesn't work. But in a live form, like you and I can sit together, we can talk about it. I can give you the context. You can ask me a question. You can tell me like, I can't believe you took a commercial. I can be like, I understand why you feel that way. Let me explain to you why I took it and see if this changes it for you at all. It's much more personal and it's harder. You know, it costs you more as a company. It takes longer, but you're so much more likely to reach like an audience that way that is going to stick around if you can convince them. It's not their job to buy your thing. It's your job to build something they actually care enough about to buy. And that's your job as the company. So I would say that for sure. You know, the nature of the relationship building needs to go back to kind of this more human to human element sort of thing. People want to be connected with, not advertised to. And then finally, I would say that we just need to think more about like, what do people actually want? And then build things that they want instead of just building things that we think are cool or that we need in this like really niche kind of industry, the little bubble of crypto Twitter sort of thing. And because we live in that little echo chamber on crypto Twitter, it's very, very hard for you to get real actionable feedback from the masses you purport to want to onboard if you never speak to them. So that's why we built off Twitter. I'm nobody on Twitter. You know, like I just use it to keep in touch with my friends in the industry, people that work in crypto that have been guests on the show, you know, and that's kind of it. I know that I'm not like attracting new consumers and new retail audience members, the people who I create content for specifically. You know, our biggest demographic is women over 45 on the live show. It's more than half of our audience. And those people are not scrolling on crypto Twitter. They're watching other stuff that they care about because this isn't their whole personality and it doesn't have to be, you know, but that's why I create on TikTok. That's why I create on Facebook. But that conversation is harder to have. So you really have to know your stuff because they will challenge you and they should. And so you just have to get comfortable with the idea of being uncomfortable as a marketer in crypto, wherein we have been telling our friends in the industry about this cool thing we built and they're going to gas me up, but there's no product market fit because I've never talked to an actual consumer, you know, who's just going to like lightly use this thing. So I guess if I were to narrow it down to the few things that you need to work on, one, we need to be building and marketing with a long-term mindset instead of a short-term flash in the pan kind of hype cycle sort of thing. We need to spend more time with the people that we want to onboard. We need to actually understand who it is that we're reaching and targeting. If we're building products for the masses, but we refuse to talk to them, you're immediately doomed. Yeah. And then you have to go meet people where they are and speak the language that they speak instead of expecting them to arrive. I'll leave you with an anecdote. Marinade, staking service provider on Solana. My friend Nicky Scanella used to work there, and he was a guest on the show when he was at Marinade. This is informed, by the way, how we work with Jito and how we educate new people about what that platform is. Because like you and I could hear like, oh, I mean, you know, I love staking on Jito. It's so easy. Connect wallet. There's a big staking dashboard right there. I hit stake, boom, done. I can see the dashboard. It's easy peasy. They give me the option to either mint the Jito Soul right there or to go and buy it on a DEX and swap it. You can maybe save a fee, one or the other. You get to pick. Someone in the audience asked Nikki on the show, oh, this is cool. How do I do it? I've heard of staking. I'd like to stake. That's like passive income, right? How do I do it? And he's like, what do you mean? How do you do it? Connect your wallet and hit stake. And the follow-up question immediately was, what's a wallet and how do I get one? Do I have to pay for it? Where do I buy it? Yeah. And it's not that he didn't know what a wallet is. Of course he does. It's not that he didn't understand that first you have to make an account with an on-ramp, then you probably have to KYC, then you have to connect your bank account, then you have to pay for the crypto you're going to send, then you have to make the wallet, then you have to get the address, then you have to make sure you're keeping your seed phrase safe, then you have to withdraw the money from the centralized exchange, which maybe has a holding period on it. I don't know. You got to look that up. Yeah. Then you got to find your wallet address for this new wallet you just made. Then you got to send the crypto over there. Then you got to connect that thing to this thing. Then you have to send a transaction, which means you're going to have to approve and sign and do this and whatever. I just listed like 9 skills you have to have from step one that like you and I take for granted as not being a thing I have to worry about because I have 17 wallets and I use them every day. You know, I don't even think about it anymore. I get paid in crypto for doing my job. So like I don't on ramp. It's all there already, you know? But, and so it's just like watching him have that realization in real time, like how many things we inside the industry take for granted when we're trying to onboard a new person that we need to go back, fully understand, and then figure out how to speak about that in an approachable, understandable way to someone who's never had the conversation before. And if you can't do that, you are doomed. You will never achieve moderate or mild adoption, let alone mass adoption. You know, we go straight from 0 to mass adoption in that conversation. You got to go to mild interest, mild adoption, moderate interest, moderate adoption. Then we can talk about the masses. You know, but you got a lot of work to do before you get there.
That's spot on. That's spot on. There's so many steps to this process. If you're not already in it, it can be between each other. Yeah, it's very easy to throw that text, hey, jump on here and stake. Not more needs to be said. If there's an odd thing, I might send a text back. I ran into this problem, but it's a small window because we've run across enough. If I told that same thing to some random friend of mine, yeah, it could be a week before they could stake if they went through Coinbase holding period. They've got no funds. They, 3 to 5 business days to get your account set up. They're verifying a bunch of stuff. They could completely lose interest by the time it's actually ready to go. And there's, in marketing terms, like there are multiple segments within that cycle that you could lose them. Each extra step is a multiples extra that you're going to lose the client in the end, or the buyer customer. So yeah, you're talking about an industry that has traditionally a large sum of steps to do a lot of things.
Yep.
And cleaning that up is definitely important and is definitely crucial.
I think it's fine though. You know, like you said, clean up. I don't know if you don't let me put words in your mouth, but if you mean, reduce or eliminate a bunch of those steps, I wouldn't necessarily go there as my first option. I think we just need to remember that, like, hey, anytime, think about what we're doing here at the end of the day, right? Like, we're building this industry whose mission was to disrupt the global money system. Give me a more ambitious goal for a bunch of startup companies than that, because I can't think of a single one. There's nothing in a billion years that would suggest that that's going to be easy. It's going to be bloody and long and brutal, and it's going to look hopeless. You're going against the most powerful things, people, companies, whatever on the planet. They have been entrenched for generations, and we're a bunch of like dorks on the internet who are trying to upend that whole system. And by all accounts, we're kind of succeeding. That by itself is crazy. And along with that is going to come a lot of new skills that people are going to learn about self-custody and asset management and protection and taking control of your own. That's the whole mission statement of this entire industry. Take control of your own finances instead of just like letting someone run it for you and hope that they're not screwing you. I think learning those skills is so important and worthwhile. And like, that's a skill that I'm excited to wake up and teach people every single day, because it's changed my life for sure. I'm not rich by any means, but like I feel so much better about the understanding and the control that I have of what I'm doing, that like that's something that I wish for everybody. It's baby steps in the right direction. So, in that sense, I would say for sure we got to keep working on the UX. We got to make sure that it works and that it's frictionless and that we're improving it. But I don't think we have to erode the skills that we want people to come away with and to be better consumers, investors, earners, keepers, custodians, whatever.
Yeah, I really think that resources and more streamlined onboarding processes, whether that's just, I don't think there's that many people, can't really go to that many very known distinct places that will teach you the basics of what you need to do to get set up. I don't even think on Coinbase, which would be a very obvious place to do that, since a lot of people come on through that specific, those big platforms don't have like a, hey, before you enter this, do these trainings. Like you have to almost go through this wallet setup, all this. They don't necessarily want you to, but we can go through all that stuff. I know you've got a hard stop here right here. And I want to give you just a second before you pop off to talk about Rise Up Morning Show, what you guys are doing, how they can find you, where to follow you, anything you want to say before you take off.
Sure. Well, I mean, first of all, dude, thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun. Any opportunity to come and hang out with you is a fun one. So I appreciate you having me. The easiest place is probably to just check out the website, which I'm currently in the process of revamping. It's just like a glorified Beacons page at this point. It's probably time for an upgrade, but it's rumshq.com, rumshq.com. Show schedules are there. All the links to all the stuff that we like and that we use, and our sponsors and partners, they're all there. The community is community.rumshq.com. It lives in Circle. It used to be Discord, but we moved out because a lot of security concerns and people are getting botted and spammed and all sorts of nonsense. So moved into Circle. It's much better. It's free to join. We'd love to have you. We say that's the place the show lives 24/7. And then we do a number of live shows. So Monday through Thursday at 8 a.m. Eastern, we run the morning show 4 days a week. After Dark is Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern. Will does Market Watch on Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern, which is where he breaks down the macro, does a bunch of charts, and kind of does more like rapid fire through. That's where he would be talking about the impacts of the carry trade and the Japanese bank raising rates and all that kind of stuff. And then I have a show on Tuesdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, which is our newest one called Trust Issues, which is all about crypto framed legislation policy, what's happening in Washington. I read the bill, so you don't have to, but you should. I was just getting real sick and tired of people talking about Genius and Clarity, and they clearly had never read it. So I was like, oh my God. All right. Someone who's read the bill has got to start talking about this kind of thing. But also, we just talk about as policy touches AI and money and investments and economics and all that sort of thing. And, what role does government play and why do we have trust issues? So, any one of them, they're all free to watch. They're streamed everywhere. You can find every link to all of my socials and Evan's socials and Will's socials all at rumshq.com. And thanks again, dude, for letting me give a big ass commercial. I appreciate it.
Yeah, always. Yeah, I trust the guys over at Rums HQ 100%. I put their links in both the arena chat as well as the X chat. So if I seem distracted or that I'm sidetracked, I'm actually
you're doing a lot of things at the same time, man.
Just don't think that just because I'm looking away that I'm not dialed in. So I've got all his links on both. If you want to go and join the community, it's free. Again, test it out. See what's there. Meet other people that are looking to learn. Meet other people that are advanced. You usually find all of that in those communities. So that is a free community. I'm not trying to shill you to go in there. Test it out. There are things you can upgrade if you're looking for individual conversations. Those may fit for some, may not fit for others, but you won't know till you're in there. So pop in, join them. TikTok, they are absolutely killing it over there constantly. And you may not know it, but Alex, Evan, and Will are humongous big accounts over there. And like you said on X, sometimes people just judge people based, oh, he's a 3,000 account, or oh, he's not a 2 million account. How can I listen? Know that people are across a lot of different platforms. So huge shout out to you, Alex, for coming out. Always appreciate your real takes on everything. And I will talk to you very soon.
Sounds good, man. Absolutely. Anytime. I appreciate it. See you, dude.
All right. We won't last too much longer, but that was Alex. Those guys over at Rise Up Morning Show are a top tier group of people. I think you're going to see them exploding in growth over these next years. They're already a really established account on multiple different platforms, YouTube, all those things. YouTube, they're on Instagram. They're really big on TikTok, but tons of education. Each one of them has a really nice segment that they take on. And it is really, you can't meet enough top quality people. You can't get enough of that in our industry. So whether you're advanced or you're beginning, definitely connect with them. I would follow their socials. I would comment on their different content. Evan's doing a ton around if you are on camera, telling you how to get better with that, do with media. So look at that. Also, if you want a lot more of their content, follow their TikTok accounts. They've posted massive amounts of video around education and different things. Alex goes through a lot of different DeFi protocols, breaks down a lot of things, like you said, different even bills and things coming out. Evan does a ton around education of different things. Then will every single day post charts, post TA, post economic pieces that are factoring in. So each one of them, I tap in each day to their profiles on TikTok. Sometimes they put stuff on X as well, but that's kind of the most guaranteed place to see them. So that's really good. I think, let me know. I can now see the chats a little more. I just try not to chat too much on during the conversation so I don't seem like I'm doing other things. But if you have any questions, anything you want to talk about, Jeff, huge appreciation. Thanks for coming out to the stream. Definitely follow Alex, follow me at the Dazzle Leveck. Everybody who came out, if you're not already, we run this show on Tuesday and Friday every week. And yeah, let me know if you have anything you want to chat about in the chat. I'll quickly go through these to make sure that I didn't miss anything, as I just absolutely was locked in. If you're not speaking in English in the chat, I can't really understand it, so I can't answer questions around that. But hopefully, when it comes to the big topics of today, Japan, Bank of Japan raised rates 1%. That's usually not good for markets. I think SpaceX and some of these other IPOs are maybe holding it up a little bit. Traditionally, it's not great for markets, but it does tend to be a bottoming of a moment, especially for crypto. So hopefully we see that. We have the FOMC this week. So the Fed meeting starts today. They are expecting a hold at 3.5 to 3.75%. So shouldn't be too much drama around that. Somewhat different from the Japan they're raising, which is a nerve-wracking, but the U.S. is holding strong. So we're going to have to see how that plays out. But hopefully that starts giving a little bit more confidence. Maybe it can allow things to be a little bit more risk on. Right now, we're seeing we're seeing a lift from the negotiation with Iran. Supposedly the peace deal is supposed to be signed by Friday. So markets were reacting really well to that yesterday. I think the NASDAQ was up 3%. Crypto even shot from 60 to 66, 62 to 66. So we are seeing some bullish momentum from that. There's still multiple days before Friday, though. We've seen how that goes. If anything pops up in the meantime, we could see some turmoil to the downside. Interested to see how the market reacts, even if it's signed on Friday. Do we see a buy the rumor, sell the news, or do we see things continue in an upward direction? Either way, if we're looking at cycles and it's traditionally stayed on track, bottoming tends to happen around September, October this year. So maybe we front run that in crypto, or maybe we're just stuck in a situation where we just see more chop, maybe more downside, but we're getting closer and closer to that moment. We are getting closer and closer to that upside. There are still opportunities here and there to find your wins, to find your successes in the market. So keep your head on a swivel. Enjoy your time out. Enjoy the summer. Enjoy the good weather. Get some amazing food in. Network with people. We will be having on Your Grails on Friday. Both Trading Aloha and CG are going to make their way out. So this will be the first ever trading card episode. It is built on Avalanche, but we're going to go through a lot more detail around trading cards. We'll get to learn a little bit more about it. We're going to get to hear from a couple really passionate about the industry guys that are super sharp and friends of mine. So happy to host Trading Aloha and CG for Your Grails and to talk all about what that industry looks like coming up, how we should feel about TCGs. Should we be worried about any kind of bubble, or are we just getting started? So should be an amazing conversation. If you have any guests you'd love to see on the show, please send me over a DM. Let me know who that is, and I'm happy to do it. Also going to have Gian, who is going to be on today. He will be on next week. He has built multiple companies out across New York around Web3, crypto, non-crypto, multiple-time entrepreneur, super disciplined guy. So going to be a great conversation. He's done some amazing things and is a top-tier person. So 2 absolutely great episodes coming back to back with Your Grails Friday and then GN on next Tuesday. So looking forward to all that. Have an amazing Tuesday. It was amazing to see all of you here. Appreciate everybody for showing up. Please go repost the stream on X so that we can have the recording out there. I'll get this clipped up, get some highlights out soon, and we'll see you on Friday at noon.